You all, I want to continue talking to you from the book of Joshua.
And I have a couple of bullet notes or points jotted down here so we can skip through and don't have to do too much reading. But there's a few things that I want to share with you in the book of Joshua. So let's go to chapter 3. And Joshua rose up early in the morning, and they removed from Shittim and came to Jordan. And he and all the children of Israel lodged there before they passed over. And it came to pass after 3 days that the officers went through the host, went through the campsite. And they commanded the people, saying, when ye see the ark of the covenant, because now he's talking to 40,000 men of war, not the women and children. They're at the campsite, but these are men that he's taken to war with him, 40,000 of them. So he says, and they commanded the people, when ye see the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and the priests, the Levites, bearing it, then ye shall remove from the place and go after it. Skip over to verse 7. And the Lord said unto Joshua, this day I will begin to magnify thee in the sight of all Israel. They may know that as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. When God highlights you, he told King David, when you were small in your own eyes, I elevated you to be king over Israel. God brings us from a position where nobody knows you, because God works in secret. God works on the internal of us, and much of it is trouble that helps us to grow up. That's how God deals with us and grows us up, in trouble. So things are operating quietly, like a seed that drops in the ground must die before you see the sprout that comes up. Nobody knows about you until God grows you up and you gain some strength and substance about yourself. Then God brings you out and people say, well, where you come from? What happened to you? I see some growth in you. There's something different about you because God was working secretly in you. Now let me turn this light on, y'all, my ring light. I forgot. I done got to talking. Hold on. Let's get the light right. Now go down to verse 10. I want to point this out too. And Joshua said, hereby know ye that the living God is among you. This is how you will know. And that he will without fail drive out from before you the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Hivites and the Perizzites, the Gerasites and the Amorites and the Jebusites, 7 nations. Now let's move over to chapter 4. We're going to stop there in chapter 3. Go over to chapter 4 because that's talking about the priests who God tells Joshua, tell the priests to stand in the Jordan. They're going to bear up the ark, the Levite priests. And when their feet hit the Jordan River, God will stop the water flow, this gushing of water. And the water did just like the Red Sea did. It said it folded back. And it allowed the rest of the 40,000 men, these soldiers, to march through, come through on dry ground. So now they are across the Jordan because they're headed to Jericho. They're going to attack Jericho. Here's the number of people, about 40,000 prepared for war, passed over before the Lord unto battle to the plains of Jericho. And on that day, the Lord magnified Joshua in the sight of all Israel. And they feared him as they feared Moses all the days of his life. God was elevating Joshua, but at the same time, while he's elevating you, he's sinking you. It's to keep us from getting too haughty, arrogant, because God hates pride. None of God's people and messengers are supposed to be arrogant and haughty. So when we see each other, you see me, I see you, we see somebody else on TV in your local congregation, in the community where we see somebody, and they seem to be haughty and arrogant, don't be all mad at them. Let God sink them. He knows what he's doing. He's not trying to destroy nobody, but we're not good for each other. We're not good in the harvest. God uses us as a tool. Let's go over to chapter 5. See, we went to chapter 4 that fast. We'll not highlight too many things. In chapter 5, let's go start at verse 1. And it came to pass, when all the kings of the Amorites, which were on the side of Jordan westward, and all the kings of the Canaanites, which were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of the Jordan from before the children of Israel, until we were passed over, that their hearts melted, neither was there spirit in them anymore because of the children of Israel. Now it's because of God, not because of the people of Israel, but That's what we each say about each other, since we've never seen God. Nobody ever seen him. We see what God is doing in somebody else's life. So the people was discouraged. Go down to 2. Let's go to 2. And at that time, the Lord said to Joshua, make these sharp knives. Now this gets me, y'all. And circumcise again the children of Israel the second time. Let's see why. Go down to verse 5. Now all the people that came out of the second time, that just kind of, I had to say that again, it just rung in my spirit again the second time. Now all the people that came out were circumcised, but all the people that were born in the wilderness by the way, as they came forth out of Egypt, them they had not circumcised. For the children of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness, till all the people that were men of war, which came out of Egypt, were consumed. And this is the reason why. Because they obeyed not the voice of the Lord, unto whom the Lord sware that he would not show them the land, which the Lord sware unto their fathers, that he would give us a land that floweth with milk and honey. Now pay attention, y'all. At the top of chapter 5, it says that the Canaanites and the Amorite kings already heard that the people of Israel crossed the Jordan. This is 40,000 men marching. But then God halts Joshua and says, sharpen some knives. I need you to circumcise the men. Circumcise the men, grown men, getting ready to be circumcised. Now they need time to heal. And wouldn't they be vulnerable? Because once they're circumcised, they're weaker. They're not fit to fight. They can be overtaken. These men are laid up in their campsite on the ground for however many days and weeks to heal. Follow the instructions of God. They could be very meticulous and very strange. Go down to 13. And it came to pass when Joshua was at Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him, and he said, art thou for us, or are you our adversary? And he said, nay, but as captain of the host of the Lord am I come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth, and he did worship, and said unto him, what saith the Lord unto his servant? And the captain of the host of the Lord, because this was an angel, said unto Joshua, loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place whereon thou standest is holy. And Joshua did so. The place was a holy ground. God told Moses to do the same thing when Moses went up on the mountain of Mount Horeb and met with God. He told him to loose your shoes off your feet. You're standing on holy ground. New Testament, the people of God under the new covenant, we're holy ground. Our body is a temple of the Lord in here. But the spirit inside your belly, all up and through here, your spirit, your conscience, it becomes holy. Instantly, God calls it holy. Even though it has to be strengthened. There's no strength in the holy man yet. It has to keep eating the word of God to get strength. Until then, your spirit's sitting you like this. Even though he's holy, he's weak. They have no nutrition. Even going to church, you can just be getting a snack. You're not feeding your spirit man alone by yourself, spending time with God. This is holy ground inside of you. Wherever you are, wherever God inhabits, that's holy ground. That's why God calls us a temple. Go over to chapter 6. Now Jericho was straightly shut up. Look at how they're intimidated. Because of the children of Israel, none went out and none came in. Y'all, let me turn this heater off. I'm starting to get hot. Hold on a minute. All right. Turn the heater off. All right, let's keep going. So we see the king of the Canaanites and the Amorite kings. They are inhabiting over there in Jericho. And they said that they shut the gates. Now, what if some of their men had gone out on a day journey? They can't get back in. It says that none went out and none came in. They shut them down because Israel was in the land. Now, a war has not broken out. The people is just near. So they go over to Jericho. And God tells them, in Jericho, I want you to take down everything. Men, women, boys, girls, the ox, ass, sheep, everything got to go. But take the plunder. Take the gold, take the silver, take the bronze, take the brass. So that's what they do. And they burn down the city. But he tells them, Joshua tells them, rescue the harlot, rescue Rahab, because she helped you all out. Be a man of your word. Rescue her. So they did. They got her and her family out of the city. Go over to chapter 7. We're moving fast, right? Here is, we're not going to stay here long. Achan, after the war at Jericho, when Joshua sent some men over to Ai, because this is the next area they're getting ready to attack. And his councilmen said, we don't need many men to go over there because Ai is not a big territory. Just send 2,000 or 3,000 men. And of that 2,000 to 3,000 men, 36 men of Israel was killed. Now, it was because Achan has that accursed thing. So now let's see what Joshua's role was in verse 7. And Joshua said, alas, O Lord God, wherefore hast thou at all brought this people over Jordan, to bring us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us? Would to God we had been content and dwell on the other side of the Jordan. O Lord, what shall I say when Israel turned their backs before their enemies? For the Canaanites and all the inhabitants of the land shall hear of it, and shall around us, and cut off our name from the earth. And what wilt thou unto thy great name? And the Lord said unto Joshua, get thee up, wherefore liest thou upon thy face? Israel have sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant, which I commanded them. For they have even taken of the accursed thing, and have also stolen, and disassembled also, and they have put it even among their own stuff. Now it wasn't they, it was one man, and maybe the man had some help, a few accomplices, but he told Joshua, this is why those 36 men lost their life. And you need to get this accursed thing and get it out of there if you're going to have me to fight for you. And the Lord said unto Joshua, fear not, neither be thou dismayed. Take all the people of war with thee, and rise up and go to Ai. Now let's go. God is in the picture now. He's in agreement. The accursed thing is out of the camp. And thou shalt do to Ai and her king as thou did unto Jericho and her king. Only the spoil thereof and the cattle thereof shalt thou take for a prey unto yourself. Lay thee an ambush for the city behind it. Now I like this strategy they employed here. I want to read a little bit of this. So Joshua rose and all the people of war to go up against Ai. And Joshua chose 30,000 mighty men of valor. Now it was a total of 40,000 of them. And sent them away at night. And he commanded them, saying, behold, ye shall lie in wait against the city, even behind the city. Go not very far from the city, but be you all ready. And I and all the people that are with me, so that's the remainder 10,000, will approach unto the city, and it will come against us as all the first, that we will flee before it. Now this is a strategy. They're going to present a decoy. Now something stood out to me right there. You're sending 30,000 people to go behind a city and camouflage yourself. Where was AI's men that stay on the tower? Why didn't they see? You might be able to hide 50 men. Grown men. It don't matter if there was tall men or short men. You might be able to hide a few men. But 30,000 men hiding behind your city. Now it don't mean that they was 50 feet away from the city. But still, that's what the men on the wall is for, is to be a lookout for danger. They're your defense. And they didn't see 30,000 men. Let's go down to 6. For they will come out after us, till we have drawn them from the city. For they will say, they flee before us, as at the first. Therefore, we will flee before them. Then you shall rise up from the ambush. Okay, let's go down to verse 10. And Joshua rose up, they employing the plan now, in the morning, and numbered the people, and went up, he and the elders of Israel before the people of Ai, and all the people, even the people of war that was with him, went up and drew nigh, and came before the city and pitched on the north side of Ai. Now there was a valley between them and Ai. And he took about 5,000 men and set them into lie ambush between Bethel and Ai on the west side of the city. Let's go over to 18. And the Lord said unto Joshua, stretch out thy spear that is in thy hand toward Ai, and I will give it unto thy hand. And Joshua stretched out the spear that he had in his hand toward the city. The Lord is in the midst. And the ambush arose quickly out of their place, and they entered into the city, and they took it, and hasted, and set the city on fire. And when the men of Ai looked behind them, they saw, and behold, the smoke of the city ascended up, and they had no power to flee this way and that way. And the people that fled to the wilderness turned back upon the pursuers, and the other issued out the city against them. So they were in the midst of Israel, some on this side and some on that side, and they smote them, so that they let none of them remain or escape. And the king of Ai they took alive, and brought him to Joshua. Joshua drew not his hand back, wherewith he stretched out his spear, until they had utterly destroyed all the inhabitants of Ai. Only the cattle and the spoil of the city Israel took, for a prey unto themselves, according to the word of the Lord, which he commanded Joshua. And Joshua burned Ai, and made it a heap forever, even a desolation unto this day. And the king of Ai he hung on a tree until evening. And as soon as the sun went down, Joshua commanded that they should take his carcass down from the tree, and cast it at the entrance of the gate of the city, and raise up a great heap of stones up on it. I'm trying to skip through. Let's go down to 34. And afterwards, he read all the words of the law, the blessings and the curses, according to all that is written in the book. He didn't just go with the good stuff, the blessings, the both, the good and the bad. There was not a word of all that Moses commanded which Joshua read not before all the congregation of Israel, with the women and the little ones and the strangers that was covenant among them.